Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'm joined by Vincent LaRussa, and we'll talk all about the legacy of Ace Frehley, both in and out of Kiss. It's a fun episode I think you guys are going to really enjoy, so let's jump in and let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. I'm excited to have back with me today, the chemist, Mr. Vincent LaRussa. How you doing, buddy?
I want to say long time no see, but I guess maybe in this format, it's been a little while since we gotten together to do. So I'm always honored when you have me on your show.
Yeah, it's funny that you said it. I actually looked it up this morning before we started, and it's been about 40 days since we've gotten together in this format. So
40 days too long. Although we did get together for lunch last week.
We did.
Actually, a week ago today it was that glorious lunch we had.
That's it. And we were celebrating your birthday a few days
Thank
late.
You.
But
thank you. No?
Yeah, it was a glorious time that we had, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So speaking of birthdays, oh look at that. I didn't even do that in
I think you're good.
No, the reason we wanted to get together is Ace Frehley will be celebrating his 70th birthday this week. And we figured, hey, let's get together. Let's chat a little bit about what Ace Frehley has meant to us. First off, to me, it's kind of crazy to think about that he's going to be 70. I know Gene turned 70 already, but I'm like, damn, these guys are starting to get old now,
Yeah. So what about us?
Yeah. No, I've been the same age. I've been the same age for the last 20 years.
That's right.
I lose my hair, but I don't age.
Yeah. That's why you're so well preserved. I know.
Exactly.
Right. Still trying to figure out your secret, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But as a kid, I guess getting into Kiss, do you remember? Like, I know for me, I'll be honest. At first, it was Peter Criss, then it was Gene Simmons.
Same for me.
I don't remember. It was more so as I got into my teenage years and a little bit older that I really started to appreciate what Ace Frehley meant to Kiss. Do you remember for yourself, like, how that went for you?
Actually, I do. And actually, just by you asking me that question, it just spurned a memory. It was probably around 1979 that
I'm so glad that nobody has any idea.
Nobody knows what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Someday we might unleash those great songs that we wrote many years ago. Anyways, and every summer I would spend 1 week at my grandparents in Shirley, Long Island, and part of me going there, and I guess my parents, even though I love my grandparents, but they were like, but get him something at the record store. Go, take him for something. And they always would do that. And I remember going to probably like a toy store or something. And I remember with Kiss, it was 4 puzzles or 4. Right. I was going with the Kiss puzzle. That's how I'm going with it. Mm-hmm. So there were 4 of the puzzles. I think Milton Bradley put them out. I forgot what the company that put them out.
Yes.
Right? So everybody knows that classic puzzle of Ace over like looks like a command center or something, like some sort of space thing. And that was the puzzle I chose. And as we've spoken in other podcasts, that Peter Criss was, my first musical idol and first favorite Kiss member. And I had a Peter Criss Kiss doll, but I picked an Ace Frehley puzzle at that time. So,
you remember why you picked the Ace one?
It probably, to me, I thought it looked the coolest. I don't know. I mean, I just thought it was just an awesome look with that's the lighted.
Agreed.
It was just an awesome. I think they all look cool, but there was something that attracted me to that one, and I got the puzzle and brought it back to my grandparents' house. I got a piece that my grandfather had in his basement of paneling. Remember how paneling was the fad at one time?
I had it in my house.
Right. and it was a square, whatever the size of the puzzle, and I was gluing the pieces onto it, and I still have it to this day. I
Do
wish
you
I would
really?
have. I wish I would have brought it out. Yeah, it's down in
Oh,
my yeah. I saved it all these years, and
I remember that.
and actually just says, you remember seeing it? I think I used to
I
have it down in my basement.
Yeah, I
Remember?
remember it. Yep, I remember
Yeah.
it.
And I think it actually says like Vinny and it says 79, because I
Oh,
actually,
nice.
like, I was an artist, like I painted it, But it's so cool that I thought to do that because it was something I wanted to put up. And I think back in the day, so all the memories are coming back now. I used to have it in my basement with all the other glorious, posters that unfortunately I got rid of, not
So
knowing then.
I think you have to find that, maybe frame it and put it either in your lab or in your music
I
room over
should.
there. That should be
I
out and
should.
displayed. There's no
You're
reason that
right.
it shouldn't.
Yeah, you're right.
I expect that on the
Project.
next episode for it to be over your shoulder.
Right. Just literally sitting over like, like not
Exactly.
like a helmet, but it's just gonna be that. I'm gonna walk
Exactly.
around with it like,
Just take the guitar down that's over your head and just put the
Yeah,
the puzzle.
I could do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny that you said, because obviously I've got a few different things, over here. I've got, I don't know, I'm trying to point to it right over there. You can see that's actually like an Ace Frehley poster from the night he was electrocuted. Over my shoulder over here. Where is it? Over here. Let me try to
Yeah.
do that. Ace
Yeah.
Frehley guitar, right? So I think you need to add a couple of Ace Frehley things to your background over there.
I do. I was just thinking that I could have hung my Ace Frehley because I have the same, not signed like you do, but I have an Epiphone. Although mine's different. I have the 2001 version that actually has the lightning bolts in the as fret markers. I think that was the original.
Yes.
Because they had the Gibson and they had the Epiphone, and I couldn't afford the Gibson one because it was. And even now, if you try to get one of those, they were like 5, 6, 7 grand,
Right.
whatever. But I was able a bunch of years ago to get the Epiphone one, which the very quality instrument, and I just love it because it has Ace's head in the headstock, which is really cool.
Right.
So
Right.
I should have been prepared with all this stuff. See, like we always do. You're like, do you want to talk about Ace really for a couple of minutes? And I'm like, all right, we'll jump on. So we don't really plan these things.
No, we don't. We don't. But you're talking about the puzzle. You're talking about the guitar. To me, one of the things that was always cool, I always loved his makeup design.
Oh, yeah.
Where in the 4 makeup designs, where would you rank his?
Oh, wow.
Putting you on the spot here, right? I don't even know if
That's
you and I have ever spoke about that.
No, I always loved Peter's because he used different colors. You know what I mean? And
Okay.
around the nose, he had the silver,
Yeah.
and But I think that was one of the things with Ace because of that silver. Because he really, I mean, there was no other guy that really had the silver. Paul Stanley's the Star was black. Gene had the black. Whatever that thing is. What do you call it? Around his eyes.
Right. Like the vampire wings, almost. Like
yeah. That's what I was gonna say. I was letting you do that.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
But Ace is like kind of like popped out because it was like the different thing, and just the design was really, really cool. Even to this day, when you just think about the fact that they came up with these designs, it's still just incredible, and it's really, I mean,
Yeah, I think for me, with the makeup designs, Gene was always my favorite. There was just always something so striking about it. But then I always liked Ace's was my second favorite. And I've always wondered this. Look, we've all heard the stories about, his condition, I'll say in the 70s, and how sturdy or not he was.
Yeah.
His makeup, obviously, you were just alluding to it, was silver with the black outline all around it. And I always wondered how he got that black outline so damn perfect pretty much every night if he was not in the greatest condition all the time. Like I always envisioned in my mind, which I know is not the case, like a stencil on his face to get it right. It's like, if I tried that right now and I haven't been drinking for the last X number of hours or at all for that matter, I don't know that I would get it picture perfect straight. I always wondered how he got that outline so perfect if he was not 100% that. So.
Listen, in the odd time where I actually have to sign a check, I have a problem with that, writing my name sometimes. And now you're doing some paint on your face, and I don't know. That's that. You're right. And who knows? Did they have? You could see there was you could see some backstage clips where there's somebody helping them put the costumes, or if a beat or something. So maybe they had some people. I don't know. I don't. Does that never been told as far as I know?
They've always said they put on their own makeup. Now that somebody maybe helped touch it up, I guess that's a possibility. I've never heard that, but but I've never seen a picture where you're like, oh my god, what the hell was Ace doing? And I've always appreciated that outline of his makeup like that. So.
And that's a really good point, because think of all the pictures we've seen of Kiss. You don't ever say, "Wow, the makeup looks slightly," on any of them. I
Right.
mean, yeah, you could leave slight variances, but
Right.
for the most part, you know. Um, as a matter of fact, that I just thought of something I saw on Facebook, which I thought was really cool. Um, somebody showed a picture of Paul Stanley when they did the, was it the Don Kirshner's? What's the show they
I
did
think
with
I
had the
think you're talking
rainbow?
about the In Concert in '74.
All right, is
Right.
that with the rainbow thing?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And you see Paul's star, it actually has silver around it.
Yeah,
Did you see that picture?
you're not paying close enough attention to my Facebook page apparently, because I posted about that last
Oh, it
year
was
in
you?
February and this year in February. So you're not paying close enough
well,
attention. So
well, obviously I am. I'm just not giving you credit. This
hold
is
on,
the difference.
I got to look into the camera here. Anybody watching this now? I have an opening for a podcast sidekick on my
Oh,
show.
come on.
Vin's
Come
out.
on.
He's like,
No, come on.
no, I know exactly what you're talking about. And Paul did do that. I know he did it obviously for the In Concert thing, and I've never seen any other shows where he did that. So, you know,
I didn't know about that until I
yeah.
saw it on your page. No, wait. Did I? It could have been. It could have been. Like, there's so many different, and that's the great thing about this band.
Right.
I'm involved in so many different pages, various, whether it's about
Agreed.
vinyl or otherwise,
Mhm.
So many pictures I see daily, and sometimes I'm like, oh god, I've seen this picture 758 times. But I know, again, we always got to think for the person who maybe just becoming the Kiss fan,
Agreed.
they've never seen it before, so you can really never complain about seeing anything so many times or hearing things so many times.
Agreed. No, I always felt, probably Ace had the hardest makeup design in my mind to try to put together on a nightly basis. Because of the outline, he had the white, the black, the silver. I always thought it was cool. Just my opinion.
And that one time on the Dynasty record where he had like the blue eyeliner or whatever, yeah, which was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and I think if I remember right, a couple of weeks ago I posted a picture which I think is really cool. It's Ace and Gene is from April of '79, early April '79. They're still in their Love Gun costumes, which is kind of weird to think about. It's like 5-6 weeks away from the Dynasty album being released, and they're still in their Love Gun costumes. And Ace has got the blue eyeshadow on with the Love Gun costumes.
Yeah.
Early Sunday morning.
I think you need to fire yourself.
Yeah, I think you're right. So it's kind of cool, but I agree. I liked that blue eyeshadow that he put in there as well. But let's talk a little bit the songs, especially from the '70s. To me, one of the things that I liked, and I liked having gone on the Kiss cruise in 2018. Ace did a bunch of deep cuts, whether it's Save Your Love, Dark Light, and that's the thing to me, the Ace songs that came out on Kiss albums in the '70s, and I'll include Unmasked, which came out in 1980. I pretty much I think every one of Ace's songs that he either wrote or sang himself. There's no clunkers in there for me. I kind of wish there was more, especially in that 77, 78 time period. When I think of the fact he wrote Shock Me, Rocket Ride, his '78 solo album, I mean, that's a great body of work in such a short period of time. I just wish there was more of it. But the songs that he was writing at that time to me were incredible.
Yeah. Well, I think, and let's not forget the songs that he wrote that he didn't sing before that time, before we heard him sing on Shock Me.
Right.
Parasite being one of them. I know that's one of your favorites of all time.
Indeed.
I think what probably wound up happening is that, with the confidence, because we've heard him talk about that he was kind of afraid to sing on a album. I think, what's the story? He sang Shock Me on his back, with the lights down, and Eddie Kramer created this thing. And I probably from that, getting that confidence, and then realizing it's a great song, and then going into doing the solo stuff, now he's really building up, and Rocket Ride too, because it was, right? So he did Shock Me, then there was Rocket Ride, and then they did the solo stuff. So, he built up a lot of confidence probably from those songs. And, it's one of those things where, if they're going to say, hey, Ace, you have one song, we're going to put of yours on the album or whatever, when they're looking at the songs, and we all know bands, they demo a lot of stuff, the producers or Gene and Paul probably said, hey, we think this is the best one. Or maybe he went to it and said, I think this is my best one. That we don't really know. But, it's, they were all, really good choices, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was recently listening to Dynasty, and I've always loved Hard Times. 2000 Man, obviously we all knew that was a concert staple for a couple of years there. But to me, Save Your Love, when I heard that, I'm like, this is actually like, I don't listen to that song enough. I was like, this is a good song. It was like one of those like
Well,
deep tracks of Ace's that I wish he was doing more in concert.
yeah, I mean, as a kid, I remember when I used to listen to Dynasty, I was probably like, "Damn, with this song," you know what I mean? It was
Right.
like I was more attracted to obviously, the Sure No Somethings, the I Was Made for Loving You, the 2000 Man, of course, you know, um, Magic Touch, right? I'm
Yep.
trying to, yeah, yeah. I
Yep.
mean, those songs. But again, a topic for another day. I think that maybe Dynasty is maybe an underrated record. I know people call that their disco record, which it's really not a disco record at all.
I agree. I
I mean,
agree.
Dirty Living has a kind of that backbeat kind of thing, but not to go off topic. Yeah, I mean, just Ace's stuff, and I feel the same way. I love Torpedo Girl off
Exactly.
on Mass. I mean, and plus the fact that classic bass line, and Ace played bass on it. Just it's such an infectious sound between Anton's playing and that I think where you kind of hear that connection he had with Anton, because it's such a even the groove, the drum groove from the drum groove and then the bass line. It's like as soon as you heard that as a Kiss fan, you're like, what the heck is this? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yep. Yep.
And so, um, yeah, so
Yeah. I think one of the things, to me, Ace always gets a bad rap for not being on Sweet Pain, not being on 4 of the 5 songs on the back of the fourth side of Alive 2. But if you look at it, I wonder song for song, is Gene missing on a greater percentage of Kiss songs than Ace? I think the answer has to be yes. Yet nobody seems to ever really bring that up.
well, there's a difference there,
Go ahead.
and this is what I'll say in defense of Gene. I'll just say because I know what you're saying, because like Paul did bass line on Love Gun, or
Right.
Eric Carr played the bass on I Still Love You, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
You know, those were choices that were made because maybe those guys said, "Oh, I have the feel for the song." Whereas in Ace's case, he was MIA, you know what I mean, and they had to bring somebody else in, like a Dick Wagner, to play.
Right.
So there's a little bit of a difference there as
Mhm.
far as responsibility. Let's put it that way. And not that I'm trying to rag on Ace at all, because we don't need to tell the tale, that that's been told so many times. But you know,
Right. So, I'm glad you brought that up, though, to that point of responsibility. I find it incredible. If you look at the last like 10, 15 years, especially, Ace is obviously cleaned up. He says he's sober
mhm.
for, I think it's like 13, 14 years now at this point. I've lost count. And he's put out 5 albums in the last 10 years, 12 years or so.
Yeah,
A couple of them, we know we've spoke about on the show, the Origins albums, where he's doing some covers, but he's put out 3 albums of new material as well. And while in my mind, the new material doesn't stack up to what he's done in the 70s and even the 80s, it's still, he's out there, 5 albums in 12 years. That's pretty remarkable, especially at this age, that he's still putting out product like that.
well, and let's face facts. Other than you and maybe a handful of others who think Monster's a great record, um, I'm sorry.
Oh, you had to get that dig
I had
in.
to, I had to get that dig. No matter what Kiss puts out, even now, if they were to put out it'll never match. I hate to say it, just in my opinion. I just think that was a magical time with those guys, and songwriting was different then, and just a whole different thing, And yeah, the it's still the fact that Ace, wants to put out product and is doing it, and to your point of being like, oh, Ace is the unsturdy one, or Ace is, hey, listen, the record shows what the record shows. He's putting out product, and let's not forget on Origins 1, Paul sang on it, which is great to get that
Yes.
connection. They did a video together. Gene wrote with him on his last album,
Agreed.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's for us Kiss fans. That's all we want. I listen. Do we want the original lineup back together for one more time? We would love to have that. You know what I mean? But in between the cracks, if these guys could support each other and stop with the, Ace are drinking and Peter with. I'm like, oh, come on, no, I don't want to hear the
Agreed.
story anymore. I'm
Agreed.
so tired of it. It's like you don't want the band that you love to tarnish themselves. You know what I mean? It's like
No, I agree. And, to that point, I know Gene was bringing together some of the ex-band members and even some of the current band members on his Vault thing. But if you look, to your point, if you look at least on recording and on vinyl, Ace is the one that got, like you said, Paul, he got Gene to write with him. That might be the last time we see that configuration of those guys
yeah.
on vinyl or, on CD or wherever you buy your music these days.
So, but the one thing to add to the whole thing about, I just want a little footnote on Gene and the whole vault thing.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Who benefited from those things? Gene or Ace when you bring Ace along? Ace wasn't selling any
No.
product, right?
Right. No, not at all.
Even when Vinnie Vincent showed up that time, or Peter did the
Mhm.
time we were gloriously there, and
Yep.
Peter came down. That was
Hmm.
awesome. Um, it goes to show you that these guys may throw sticks and stones whenever they done, but the bottom line, they're always going to be grounded to each other, and they all realize, if it wasn't for the four of them, all four being whatever they were at that time, different personalities.
Yep.
Hey, we'll never know. Could they, if there was a different Peter or a different Ace, could there? I mean, the concept. When you look at the concept of what they were trying to say, oh, this was undeniable.
Right.
Yet again, they were against every critic, every odd. They were going against the grain, no matter how you look at it.
Agreed.
But the record shows what the record shows. It was these four guys,
Agreed.
and nothing can ever take away from that.
No, look, I fully agree. So talking of those 70s records, you know, Ace co-wrote some songs or wrote some songs on a few of the albums, but some of the times it's his solos in the songs. And I've always had this love for the solo in Dr. Love, right? So I can't
Yeah,
have an episode about Ace Frehley and not bring up that solo because I love that solo. That might be one of my top 10 favorite moments on any Kiss album, is just that
yeah.
solo in Dr. Love. For whatever reason, are there any other songs that come to mind for you where you're like, hey, that Ace solo on there? Because I got a few others myself, but I'll let you go first.
Well, definitely Shock Me.
Mhm.
Shock Me. The end of Love Gun, that build. That whole thing he does,
Yep.
and after that, I mean, just saying that, I get the chills. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? It's just the thing that I love about Ace Frehley, and for those Kiss snobs, they'll be like, "Oh, Kiss sucks," and they don't. They wrote shitty songs, and oh, there's no depth. Or all right, we understand they're not Rush, and Rush is a different thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, Again, the same thing we spoke recently when we spoke about Peter Criss. The thing about Ace is the melodies, the hummability of his solos,
Agreed.
and also in the sense of, I've made this connection recently. When you heard him play, it was a different thing from Eddie Van Halen when you say, "What the hell is this guy doing?" Like, this guy's on another planet. It doesn't sound like anything I could ever do. Ace sounded like it was obtainable. Like, all right,
Right.
there's some
Yeah.
obviously some technically great stuff here. And he says how Jimmy Page was like, or Leslie West, or whoever was his influence, Eric Clapton, those blues guys. And Ace has said, I've never took a guitar lesson in my life. And the thing about Ace is that when you hear Ace, it's Ace, it's that damn vibrato.
Right.
It's like, it's such a signature thing that he has. And I say, like, in anything in life, as a musician or just as a human being, if you could do one thing that somebody could easily identify that as being you, that's an incredible achievement. You know what
Agreed.
I mean? I always say, like, for those people who say, "Oh, I don't like Kiss," whatever. I said, you know what? Yeah, if I wrote a rock and roll all night, yeah, I'd be really upset too. You know what I mean? Like, the fact that this band wrote, to me, arguably one of the greatest musical anthems, to this day, it's just something that can never be taken away from them.
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
there's a lot to be said about achievement.
Yeah, no, and this you're talking about some of his playing being like accessible, but memorable at the same time. And I remember in the 90s, Paul started saying that he felt Ace peaked in the 70s and maybe even on the first album. And Paul made a comment that, Ace might have peaked on 100,000 years. And I remember thinking, really? Like, is
Yeah.
that really even like a solo that comes to mind? But
Yeah.
now when I hear that song and that whole like guitar solo part before the drums come in and all,
Yeah.
I'm like, there's just something that's so like infectious about that. And it's
Yeah.
so, it's technically, I'm not going to say it's like Eddie Van Halen, great type of thing, but damn, it is so good. Now I'm like,
Yeah.
there's a part of me is like, I don't agree with Paul that he peaked there, but I get pointing out how great that was because it was simple that I almost didn't think of it. But now I listen to it and I'm like, damn, that's like so perfectly simple.
Yeah. Well, I think if we went back to Paul, and maybe next time you have him on your show, I think he might change his mind. We all know that Kiss go those guys, Pete, especially Gene and Paul, throughout the years, they would kind of be favorable and non-favorable and
Right.
stuff like that. So I think if he really was honest with himself and, like, come on, listen to the songs we mentioned just now,
Right.
I
Right.
think he would have a change of opinion
Yeah.
on that.
Even before you were talking about like Kiss snobs or whatever, Kiss fan snobs, and that whole ending of Black Diamond, right?
So many good parts.
It,
Oh
it's
my
just
god.
so epic to me. And even my daughter, who's 22, she listens to that and she's like, "That's it." She loves that part of the song. And there's that Ace solo, which is not really like it's not again like a flashy crazy.
Yeah.
It's so melodic and it's so
You
perfect.
you know that part when he goes
Totally. Oh my God, I
right?
got chills as
Right?
you're saying it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Listen to Stairway to Heaven in the solo at the end.
Right.
It's definitely, in my opinion, I don't know if it was purposely, but it's almost like derivative of Stairway to Heaven. And as I
Interesting.
said earlier, him being a huge Jimmy Page fan, there's a line in there that's very, very similar. And every time I heard that, even as a kid, I always thought it was cool. It's not that like I think an Ace ripped him off.
Right.
He's doing licks that a lot of if you listen to a BB King or an Albert King or like a lot of these blues guys, you hear a lot of the kind of same kind of blues lick because it falls into a certain technical pattern, whether it's a pentatonic scale, and I'm not going to go off on
No.
technicalities of guitar, but yeah, there's reason why notes are chosen because music is not just random like notes. There's a formula behind whether you're playing jazz, rock, country, whatever it is. So he used as a painter would have remember when you bought a box of crayons
Hmm.
and you got like the basic box with 8 colors and
Yeah.
then you bought another one 16 and then you got that big jumbo one with the
64.
sharpener. Yeah, sharpener. I was like, when you brought that into school, you were like the coolest kid, like
Yeah.
and you would look at the colors like dark taupe or you're
Right.
like, yeah, this isn't red baby, this is dark taupe,
Right.
right? So, so, and in music, it's kind of the same thing. You have a certain palette that you could, you can pick and choose your musical notes from,
Right.
and for the fact that Ace did that, all from learning and watching,
Hmm.
there was no damn YouTube.
No, that's true.
There was none of that.
Right.
I don't even know if there was like Guitar World magazine or Guitar. There was Rolling Stone magazine
Right.
back, in the late '60s, early '70s. I don't know if there were publications like that. You had your local guy who taught you, and if you didn't, you listened to records and picked up a guitar and just started figuring it out.
Very
So
true.
it's an incredible achievement.
Very true. But while we're talking about the guitar solos, I feel like if I don't bring up at least these two songs, they'll have tons of
Mm.
comments on the bottom of this, right? Where people say, "Oh, you guys didn't talk about Strange Ways and the solo he has in that, and you
Yeah,
guys didn't talk about Dark Light because so many people love the guitar solo he does there." So
yeah,
I just want to make sure I acknowledge that. Obviously we know Kiss fans love that. Ace has had Strange Ways in his set for 25 years now. I think because he knows Kiss fans loves that solo in the song.
yeah.
Those are two other songs that kind of certainly come to mind to me, which and Darklight is a little bit less like what would. So the solos we've been talking about are more like melodic, you could sing.
Yeah.
There's nothing that you could sing about that Darklight solo. It's a
Yeah,
little bit I'll say out of character phrase, but it's still
yeah.
really cool to me. Yeah.
Well, that whole part it gets a little out of character. They got like
Yeah.
conga drums in there, which is like,
Exactly.
Ezra's like, yeah, bring in Tito Puente. We need him on this track. Like how'd that happen? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
But it's great. It's like brilliant. Like when they go into that little break and yeah, it's just such a great solo. And I'm glad you're bringing up some of these things because once again, it's going to make me like once we're done with this, go put on these records and listen to
Hmm.
these songs.
Right.
This stuff like really never gets old. It's just you know, I always say this. I've been saying this a lot lately. It's like the discovery and the rediscovery of things, no matter
Agreed.
what it is in life, whether it's food you love, whether it's people you love, whether it's, music you love. You know what I mean? There's always like that great thing when you first discover things. And then later on in life, you start realizing, oh, yeah, what was that song I really liked? I haven't heard it in so many years.
Yep.
And you go and you pull out that record or however you listen to music,
Yeah.
and it brings you back to a certain time. You know,
Yep.
it's
No.
it's a wonderful thing.
It's you're hitting the nail on the head for me. And I mentioned before, Save Your Love. And that's the way it was for me. I feel like I kind of rediscovered that song maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. And the whole outro of it with Paul kind of singing, Save Your Love,
Yeah,
part. And
yeah,
I'm like, this is kind of cool. There's not another song that I could think of that's like that. Maybe You're All That I Want with Paul singing like at the end of the song also. But
yeah,
I'm like, it's kind of a unique type of thing on a Kiss album, at least up to that point. And I'm like, the song's actually really good. It's simple
yeah.
but good. So that's a song I've rediscovered, I'll say, in the last like 5 years.
Oh yeah, and also let's talk about Ace. Here's a guy who, let's face facts. He doesn't have this vocal prowess. He
Right.
doesn't sing like Paul. Even like Gene. Gene, we've heard where he could sing in like a sweeter voice, like and he does his Gene thing, and then we all know Peter's got that raspy, I mean, incredible singing voice, and Ace was always like, he's got this kind of, it's Ace, he's like,
Right.
he's not a pure singer,
No, it's almost like a talking, singing
talk,
voice in
yeah,
my mind. Yeah.
right, but again, it's kind of almost like a Tom Petty,
Right.
Tom Petty or Bob Dylan, if you like that kind of thing. It's like these guys didn't have, these pure singing voices. It wasn't like an Elton John, a Billy Joel, a James Taylor s kind of, these tremendous singers. But he had a unique sound, and I felt, and Ace, if you're listening, I felt in the last bunch of records he should have Eddie Kramer produce his records, because I feel, and let's remember his first solo album that he did. The Frehley's Comment I'm talking about.
Right.
When that record came out, I loved that record immediately, and I loved also Todd being on the record, and the songs that Ace did on there, and then the record he did, what was it called? The one Trouble Walking.
Yep.
I always felt like Eddie Kramer got the most mileage out of Ace Frehley on his vocals.
Agreed.
And some of the stuff he's done more recently, I was like, yeah, I wonder if Eddie Kramer was producing this, what it would be like. I just think it would be that much better. Not to say anything against,
Right.
Whoever produces or, his records, but Eddie Kramer is Eddie Kramer. Let's face facts.
Right.
So I would
love. Let me ask you this question. I'm glad you bring this up. I recently was listening to some of the newer Ace albums, and I started to realize I think the songs are there. Again, I'm not saying that he's written, 10 Shock Me's and Rocket Rides, but I feel like there's enough good songs there. But there was something about the sound on the records. They sounded like his 80s album sounded, I'm going to use all the wrong terminology, so you're going to help me here. But the 80s album sounded a little bit brighter, livelier. There's something with these just sound a little bit flat, a little deeper. I don't know if they're tuned down. I don't know if it's the production, if it's a combination of both. But I was like, I'm so glad you brought up the production, because I'm like, I feel like the new albums, maybe that's the element that is missing, is the production.
Yeah, again, not to say this again, and when I've been on your show, I've talked about my displeasure with modern day recording, and it certainly is a product of the times, unfortunately. When we did our Paul Stanley, we talked about his Soul Station record, and I got, as you could see it over my shoulder right here, the vinyls, right? And I was so excited to get it because I had heard, the digital versions. I was like, oh, it's got that sound. And then when I put the vinyl on, I was like, oh, it's got that sound. I was like, it's just inherent in the recording. And I'm just like, there's no breathing in the sound. It's just so highly compressed, and they're overdoing it, in my opinion. And yeah, if you listen to Ace's first solo album, Love Gun, and Rock and Roll Over, everything that Eddie Kramer produced, it's got this crisp, somewhat dry sound, and it's raw, you know what I mean?
It is, yeah.
And that's what they're lacking in a lot of the recordings today. And just like that air and that space. Oops. And so, yeah, I wonder if Eddie were to do something with him now. I think just everybody's using the digital stuff now. It's, you're not seeing, 32 track, 48 track recorders, unless you're an artist like, like a Lenny Kravitz, who loves that from day one. He was doing it really old school, even when the old school still existed in like 89.
Right.
But, and you know what, too? It's a product of also getting older. Your voice changes, too. So there might be some of that in the recording, too. But
that's what I was wondering, if they tuned down a little bit, because, look, no knock. We said he's turning 70, but the voice was never an A+ voice to begin with.
Yeah.
It's probably deteriorating a little bit,
Yeah. And that's what any of those guys,
Of course. Well, except for my singing voice is obviously also
never. It's funny, and just a really quick side note, they Kiss has put out this live 2001 Tokyo. Is it Tokyo?
Yes. Yep.
Right. Sounds from the soundboard, and they released the "I Was Made for Loving You" little clip there, and you hear Paul singing. And I commented to you on the text. I said, "Now I know why Paul sounds like he does now." Right. I mean, he was over like extending the song, just really kind of make it more dramatic or whatever. But you see that all years of him singing like that, takes a toll, and
Agreed.
So.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up. To me, the one exciting thing about that album CD that's coming out is not only was that, to me, a great Kiss lineup. I wish there was more time with the Eric Singer Ace Frehley lineup, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that album does have Talk to Me on it, which
Mm-hmm.
Kiss barely played live. So I'm kind of,
Right.
for that reason, I'll certainly be interested to hear what the version sounds like. And
Oh yeah.
from what I've heard, I think it was Eric Singer that actually was pushing Ace to do that. Ace did not want to do Talk to Me. He was like, yeah, I don't really know that song. It's not something that really, fans want. And it was Eric Singer. I was like, no, man, the Kiss fans want to hear that. And I'm glad Eric pushed that.
And that's a good point because we've always talked about how well people have talked about how close he was with Peter,
Mm-hmm.
and he liked Eric a lot too. From everything we've ever read, that
Yep.
they kind of really hit it off. Even when Peter, however that worked out, he left the contract, whatever the heck it was, and then Eric came in. The fact that happened like that is again, and as Kiss fans, that's kind of like what we want to hear.
Sure, sure. Well, think about
So
when we were in Indy, what was it, 2016 or 18, something like that, a
yeah.
couple of years ago, right? And Ace Frehley was a guest there. And I think this is so cool. Ace went up on stage and he jams with Bruce Kulick, Bob Kulick. Eric Singer was playing drums, and Todd Kearns and a few other guys were up on the stage. But it was like a mixture of all the different Kiss lineups, which, again, I give Ace a lot of credit. There was no ego there. And he was like, hey, let's all just get up on stage and jam some songs.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a great night, that
It was.
show, and we were right up front, like that was so awesome.
It
Yeah.
was. It was. So I was thinking about this yesterday as I laid in my pool relaxing.
In
I'm thinking
April?
in
How do you do
April.
that? In New
Oh,
York?
in
You
New
have
York.
a
I
you have
have
a
a
new heated
pool heater. Yes. I know. You don't hear
pool.
you never hear the end of that one. But so I'm laying in
Yeah.
my pool and I'm thinking about this. Ace Frehley started doing his solo shows in 85, roughly. I think he did one in 84, but let's just say he started in 85. So from 85 to 1990, when he put out Trouble Walking, his output during that time, greater than, less than, or equal to Kiss's output from 85 to 90.
So we're talking here.
So Kiss would have had during that time Asylum, Crazy Nights, Smashes, and Hot in the Shade. So take Smashes out because it's the greatest hits, right? So they would have had those three albums: Asylum, Crazy Nights, Hot in the Shade. And Ace would have had the debut, Frehley's Comet, Second Sighting, and Trouble Walking.
Well, right off the bat, the problem I have is Second Sighting, as we know now, was not really much of an Ace record. It's so I almost like that doesn't count, that record. I mean,
Okay.
it counts, but it doesn't.
And it's okay
But
if you say Kiss. It's I'm not trying to lead you down a road.
no. But it's something really to think about. I mean, look, I was always a big fan of the Crazy Nights record. We've talked about that in the past. But that's a good argument. I would really have to go like song for song. I mean, immediately when I start thinking, is there any song on all those records that are better than Tears Are Falling or Who Wants to Be Lonely? That's how I immediately start thinking. You know what I mean? Even though I think Asylum is not a great record. There's some good parts of it. Those being, I think, the highlights, or obviously the best songs on there. But that's a good argument there. But it's amazing these things that you think about when you're in a pool.
Well, that's what I'm laying out there and I'm swimming and I'm laying in my float of awesomeness for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And it's funny that because I said, I think the Kiss highlights or the peaks during that time were greater than Ace's. But perhaps, like you just said, song for song, perhaps those Ace albums are stronger in totality than the Kiss albums. Because like if I look at Asylum and I compare it to the first Frehley's Comet solo album, song for song, I think the first Frehley's Comet album has to be better.
Agree.
And there's, except for Dolls, which I never liked.
Yeah.
That first solo album is an excellent album. Every song on that is really, really good.
I listened to it recently, and I was just like, this album still holds up.
Yeah.
Breakout being one of my favorite songs of all time. Just as soon as that comes in and Into the Night. I mean, I know that he didn't write this, whatever, but still.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, it still performed, and the solo on that outro solo when he's singing, that whole melody at the end, it's just awesome.
Agreed. Yeah. So, maybe that's a episode for another day.
Yes.
We'll have to do, right? We'll have to dig deep into that. But I was thinking about that yesterday because, I mean, a lot of people give a lot of slack about Second Sighting and Ace is not on that much. And I get that. But I still think those three albums that he put out in the 80s, when you look at them in totality, it's a solid body of work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
we'll have to debate that one maybe a little bit more another day.
Hmm.
One other thing that I think that's worth mentioning, and you mentioned before about the different lineups in Kiss. To this day, Ace is the only member in Kiss that quit the band twice. Right? Peter was either let go or his contract wasn't renewed. Mark St. John was let go. Bruce and Eric Singer will let go with the reunion, right? Ace is the only one, not once, but twice, quit the band. And I think, that's something that's lost on some people. They're always like, no, Ace should be back. Ace is not in Kiss because it was Ace's doing.
Yeah.
He was the one, and I'm not judging. I think in '82 when he left, he probably needed to from a lifestyle point of view. He needed a break, and after the 2000 farewell tour, he felt that was a farewell and he wanted out. I'm not knocking it, but it's amazing that he's the only one that actually quit the band and did so
Mm.
twice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Anything else that you could think of Ace Frehley related that you'd want to reminisce
Well,
about?
yeah. Well, one thing, we talked about the guitar playing, and we talk about you when you look back in time and rock and roll music, the people who, everyone says, not everyone, but there are people, especially of the Ace Frehleys and the Paul Stanleys and the Gene Simmons, says when I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, that was the I wanted to do this, right? Think about how many guitar players we've heard say Ace Frehley was the reason why I started playing the guitar. Whether it's like a Tom Morello or whoever. I mean, think about the generation of guitarists that were influenced by Ace Frehley. So I know again, everyone just calm the heck down here. What I'm going to say here, right? Calm down.
Uh-huh.
Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, Eddie Van Halen, Ace Frehley, right? Can you say
Mm-hmm.
that? I think you absolutely can. Why can't you?
Yeah.
Why? Because he's in a makeup band
Right.
and they were characters.
No.
So nothing, any critic that's ever going to say anything about this band, that's one thing we have proof of because we've heard it from the artists themselves,
Yeah.
successful artists. You know,
Very true.
you have a guy like even like a John Five,
Yeah.
huge Kiss fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sebastian Bach waving the Kiss flag, right?
Yeah.
Proud to do it.
Well, look, we were at the Hall of Fame induction, and that whole Tom Morello speech was, to me, I mean, I think I literally watched it 2 weeks ago. I'll
Mm.
watch that because he so hit the nail on the head of what it was like for decades to be a Kiss fan and them not getting the respect. But he used the three words: impact, influence, and awesomeness.
Yeah.
Right. And that influence part is what you're talking about right now, is
Yeah.
that you have so many established artists that'll turn and say, I played an instrument because of Kiss. I played guitar because of Kiss. How could you discount that? To
You
me, you
can't.
can't. You
You
can't.
know, and the best part of it is, and what I love about that is that no matter how those people try to counter that with some sort of bullshit,
Mhm.
which basically what it
Of course.
is the band still playing shows today,
Right.
right? I mean, you know what I'm trying to say. They did the thing
Of
for New Year's
course.
Eve. They're still together. They still
Yes.
have plans. They have a tour coming up again, right?
Right.
No matter what the critics have ever said about this band, the success that they still have, the passion that the fans have, the rabidness of getting merchandise and stuff. You know, when Kiss says that Kiss has the best fans on the planet, there's no lying to that.
Agreed.
I don't care if there's a Beatles fan club, and you know me, a huge Beatles fan.
Yeah.
There's nothing like the Kiss fan. You want to know why that is? Oh man, I'm getting fired up now. Because we've always had our backs up against the wall,
Mhm.
right? And whether you were in school, you were made fun of. I have my good friend who I've talked about Super Mario has told me, he goes, you don't know what it was like for me as a kid, as a Kiss fan.
Yep.
The battles I would have to get into, the people who loved Queen and Led Zeppelin, and not to say anything against those great bands.
Right.
But and then all of a sudden you had to hide, I don't want people to know that I like this Kiss band. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like, it should never have been that.
Agreed.
It should never have been that.
Agreed. No,
But
look,
it makes it that much sweeter
I agree.
that we persevere and we pushed on.
Yeah.
So
I remember, so I was talking to somebody a few years ago, and they were saying that a friend of theirs did not know any Kiss songs.
Mm-hmm.
and they said, what song should I play for them first? They like rock music, but they have this
Mm-hmm.
misconception of what Kiss is. And I honestly, I swear on my life, I said, play in Parasite.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't like that song, because it's just a straightforward rock song, it's got a great riff in it, as we spoke about last week. It's got a great drum beat in it. It's a great rock song. And
Yeah.
if you listen to that and you say, I don't like that, you're probably getting the makeup is getting in the way. If you like hard rock, I
Right.
understand if if you're into Taylor Swift and you say you don't like that. All right, I get that, right? But if you're into hard rock and you listen to that and you don't at least say, that's a cool riff, that's a good song, you're letting your other biases get in the way. And that was, to me, like I said, listen to that and then go listen to Black Diamond. And if you don't like
Right.
those two songs, then you're probably getting your bias in the way.
Well, here's a quick, interesting story that to what you're saying. I was driving in the car with my dad one day, and I don't know, we were talking about it, and I somehow we were talking about Kiss, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I never really, liked them. I remember when you were a kid, I didn't really." So I
Mhm.
said, "All right." So I was trying to think of songs that he would like. So I put on "Sure No Something." That was one I put
Mhm.
on. I put on, and he was like, "I don't know why I didn't. I would have listened to this. Like
Right.
here's my dad saying like." I wish I would have known. Like, I didn't know they sounded like this. I'm like,
Yep.
you didn't hear it in the house. Well, it's like, it's like, but
Right.
like, here was somebody who obviously had a bias, and my dad, was very influenced on the music I listened to, but never had a Kiss record. I had whatever, but never would listen to him. But now, later in life, maybe having a different perspective, said, "Wow, this is some good stuff,"
Right.
which
Yep.
is great. I
It
mean,
is. It is. Yep.
so
And that's where, especially the original four, because that's where the foundation is. They all four of them, just to me, don't get the credit that they deserve. And Ace was instrumental in that sound on those albums. And like I love that you listed those guitar players before, because I think you could make a case for Ace, certainly in the top 10, the way you did. And yeah, I just don't think that as a band and as a guitarist and as an artist that they get enough credit, and Ace gets enough credit. But I'm glad you put that list together just then.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
sure we'll get comments about it. But you know what? Um, I think there's a case to be made. The last thing,
yeah.
as you were talking, that came to my mind also is, Ace is credited for designing the logo, and that logo is so. And I know Paul has said in the, he's refined it or whatever. For decades, it was Ace made the logo, right? So I'm going to go with
Mm-hmm.
that because I think that's the truth, right?
Right.
And you can't discount what that logo has meant also. And the
Yep.
early days having that up on the stage and lights. I mean, that's become almost like the norm now, right? Think about like Van Halen had like a logo. All bands pretty much started with logos now. And Ace deserves the credit for that also, because that logo is so iconic, so
Mm-hmm.
iconic. I can make a case that it's potentially the most iconic rock band logo in the world. All right.
Yeah.
And Ace
Rolling
deserves
Stones,
credit.
Rolling Stones being another one with the
Rolling
the
Stones is
little
another
one.
one.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
So, but yeah,
Absolutely.
it's up there. It's
Again,
definitely
again, I'll say top five, maybe
right,
top three.
right.
But it's up there. And yeah, I'll give you maybe the Rolling Stones is more iconic. But maybe Kiss is in the top three logos,
Oh
and
yeah,
Ace
mm-hmm.
deserves that credit. So I want to make
Absolutely.
sure I acknowledge that.
Yeah, yeah, Paul.
Oh, that's great. Anything else, Ace Frehley, that you want to bring up and
Well,
discuss?
what one other thing that we were
Good.
just talking about, we talked about the makeup and stuff like that, but also his movement on stage, the way he would bend his knees and lean back
Yes.
and play, like that whole movement of Ace is like nothing you ever saw any guitar player.
Agreed.
Again, you want to talk about influence and but the way he looked like he was stumbling around, whether it was because he was, I think it was just the way Ace, moved.
Yeah.
It was just such an iconic thing, when you saw all of them had that,
Agreed.
the different vibes. But then it's just like such a cool thing when I go back and watch Ace play and he's ripping a solo, especially in their prime. It's just, listen, it's hard enough to play your instrument sitting in a chair like this. When you're moving around and going like this and you're trying to hit the notes act, that's not easy to do
Agreed.
at all. So,
Agreed. Agreed. And you're saying that now, you're making me think, what about the outfits? Do you have a favorite Ace Frehley outfit?
oh, I want to say maybe previous to Love Gun, what was the that's when he had the thing that was wrapped across this way.
Right.
The I think probably around the Hotter Than Hell into Destroyer into that or to
Okay.
Dress to Kill like that
Mm-hmm.
era.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, something about that look. To me, you know, as we know, Kiss got more gaudier and gaudier with the thing. You
Right.
know,
Hmm.
I like, you know, before he had like the big like, you know, Love Gun. He had those like the big looks like space boots.
Yep.
But I liked it more when he had like the, you know, they had those chunky heels or whatever, those type of
Okay.
shoe
Hmm.
boots with the lightning bolt on the side. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
that look that around that time,
Yep.
I really like that look of Aces.
Yeah, I think probably for me, it's a toss up between Destroyer and Love Gun. I'm probably slightly towards Destroyer, although when I asked
Yeah,
you the question, the first thought that came to mind for me was Love Gun. So,
yeah,
I can tell you the one I don't like. I do not like the Elder Creatures of the Night costume. You know, it's like just the one piece with the lightning bolt on it. I never liked that at
yeah,
all. You know,
yeah,
it just seemed
yeah,
lazy and uninspiring to me. So that's the one I
yeah,
don't like.
yeah.
What did you think of the cape on the Dynasty tour and all
Eh,
of that?
you know, I mean, again, uh, all of them, I thought it was just a bit too much. At the time, I thought it was the coolest thing. Like
Right.
when they, you know, as a kid, when I saw their new outfits, I was like, wow, check this out.
Right.
And you know, you see Peter Chris with like the pictures of him in like these green pom poms. It looks like on his shoulders, like you know, it's like
Uh-huh.
I was like, obviously he didn't play with that, but
Right.
that's where it became a bit too much. You know, looking back at it, you know,
Right.
but yeah. Although I thought like the top piece was kind of cool in the Dynasty tour. I
Right.
just thought maybe that the cape was a little too much,
Right.
but
Yeah,
when
you
they
see, the
take the
capes didn't bother me. I then they took him off after a
they
song or
took them
two.
off. Yeah,
Yeah, they took
right.
him off after a song or two. But it's interesting, kind of bring this whole conversation full circle because I totally get you and a majority of Kiss fans are like with those Dynasty costumes. Yet think back to the beginning of this conversation, you saying you wanted to buy that puzzle. And I don't think it's in the Dynasty costume, but it has certainly that glitzy feel to it, the
Uh-huh.
puzzle, and it's very
Yeah.
colorful.
Yeah.
And as a kid, you were drawn towards that. And I always think back to, trying to put ourselves in that time. And in 79, I was 9 years old. And I love that. That's like my first memory of Kiss, really, really deep memory is those costumes. And
Mhm.
yeah, as much as I wouldn't put it in my top three, I actually love that Ace outfit,
Yeah.
even with the cape and all. I love it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So, alrighty, I'm glad I thought of that one at the end here. Um,
Good one.
yeah. So, alrighty, I think that's about it on Ace Frehley for us. If everybody watching, let us know. What are your favorite solos that he's done? Let us know which outfit you like the best. We were talking before Kiss 85 to 90 versus Ace Frehley 85 to 90. Let us know your thoughts on that. We might have to do an episode on that one, but let
Yeah.
us know your thoughts and just
Let us know about my comment about Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, Jimi
yeah.
Hendrix, and Eddie Van Halen, Ace Frehley.
I was trying to stay away from that just so you don't get abused. But
Nah, nah,
yeah,
nah.
go ahead, abuse me.
Listen. No matter what anybody's gonna say, it's not gonna change my mind. I'll just say
Agreed.
that right now. So,
Agreed.
the
Agreed.
flag. I'm waving the flag.
As I'm
The
glad
virtual Kiss Army flag. Can you see it?
I do. Yes, I do. Yes. All righty. On that
All right.
note, I think we're out. Thanks, Vin, for joining. Let's hope it's not another 35, 40 days until we do another one of
Yeah.
these.
Come on now. Come on
And
now.
thank you, everybody, for watching. See you guys soon.
See you soon.
Alrighty, there you have it. Our thoughts on what Ace Frehley has meant to us over the decades. We look forward to hearing and reading your comments and your thoughts as well. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next time.